Imagine handing the keys to a highly tuned Formula One car to your absolute most ambitious engineer.
Okay, I like where this is going.
Right. But then you tell them that they're legally only allowed to drive it through a school zone.
Oh, man.
A school zone that is just, filled with speed bumps.
That's a painfully accurate analogy.
It really is. And that is exactly what it feels like to be an enterprise technology leader in Europe right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you look at the projections for the near future, you see this just dizzying contradiction. I was actually looking at a 2026 Gardner Roadmap the other day, and they are projecting that 65% of enterprise organizations will be actively using AI agents by 2027.
Which is a massive jump.
A huge jump. Just to put that in perspective for you, in 2024, that number was sitting at a mere 25%. So the pedal is entirely to the metal, right?
Right. Everyone is racing.
Exactly. But then you turn around and look at this 2025 Capgemini survey that focuses entirely on European enterprises. And 72% of them are saying that regulatory ambiguity is their absolute biggest barrier to scaling AI.
It's a really profound paradox. Because on one side of the equation, you have this undeniable market pressure. I mean, if your competitors are automating complex workflows, you can't afford to sit on the sidelines.
No, you'll get crushed.
Exactly. But on the other side, you have the strictest technological regulatory environment on the planet effectively slamming on the brakes. You're caught between this fear of missing out and, well, the fear of catastrophic legal penalties.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because if you are a European business leader or a CPO or, a developer listening to this deep dive right now, you are living this contradiction every single day.
Yeah, you feel the friction.
So the big question is, how do you scale AI aggressively while navigating these enormous legal hurdles?
And that is the core mission for our deep dive today. We're going to explore a highly practical blueprint developed by AetherLink. For context, AetherLink is a Dutch AI consultancy firm that tackles this exact friction. They operate 3 distinct product lines. There's AetherBot, which handles the actual AI agents, then AetherDV for the custom engineering and deployment side of things, and AetherMIND, which functions as their AI strategy and governance arm.
Which is what we're really digging into today.
Yes, today we're focusing heavily on those architectural strategies coming out of AetherMIND.
And the goal here is to give you, the listener, an actionable roadmap. We want to show you how to bridge that gap between rapid innovation and just bulletproof compliance.
Precisely.
Specifically, we're looking at how to build what AetherLink calls GDPR-Compliant AI colleagues by the time 2026 is in full swing.
Right. And to really grasp the headache regulators are having, we first have to understand how the technology itself has fundamentally evolved.
Yeah, the landscape is totally different now.
Exactly. If you're still thinking about the generative AI from a year or two ago, you are already behind. We have moved entirely past the standard chatbot paradigm.
Right. We aren't just talking about opening a browser, typing a prompt into a text box, and waiting for an essay to generate. We assume you already know how that works.
Yeah.
The entire enterprise landscape has shifted to what is known as Agentic AI.
And the key distinction here is the shift from a reactive posture to a proactive one. Traditional generative models just, sit there, they're dormant, waiting for a human to initiate an interaction.
Right, like a search engine.
Exactly. But agentic AI is an entirely different beast. What's fascinating here is it observes your enterprise workflows, it actively proposes optimizations based on real-time data, and crucially, it can actually execute tasks across your tech stack.
If I can use an analogy here, traditional AI is essentially like a super fast, incredibly knowledgeable library search engine.
Okay.
You ask for a specific book, it fetches the book. But agentic AI is like hiring a highly proactive, slightly overeager intern.
I love that comparison.
Right. This intern sits at your desk, monitors your incoming client emails, cross-references them with your company's CRM, drafts the responses, flags potential compliance risks, and then just stands there with a clipboard waiting for you to look it over and say, yep, send it.
And the interesting part is the underlying engineering loop that enables that level of autonomy without, burning the company to the ground.
Which is always a risk with eager interns.
Exactly. Enterprise-grade tools leading this charge, like Anthropic's Claude Cowork and OpenClaw, they operate on a very strict, repeatable cycle. It's propose, example, approve, and execute.
Break that down a bit.
So the AI evaluates the state of a system, plans a sequence of actions, proposes the next move, and actually shows you a simulated example of the outcome. It waits for human authorization, and only then does it interact with the live environment.
And the return on investment for getting that loop right is just staggering. I mean, McKinsey research shows that this specific setup yields a 30 to 40% productivity boost for knowledge workers.
Which is huge. Think about the compounding effect of that. It fundamentally reallocates human capital. By offloading the repetitive, volume-heavy tasks to an autonomous agent, you are freeing up your most expensive asset, your human workforce, to focus on strategic thinking.
Right. Complex problem solving and relationship building, things the AI can't do.
Exactly.
So having an army of highly efficient, autonomous digital interns optimizing your operations sounds like a dream scenario for any CTO. But what happens when these proactive agents start touching highly sensitive European Union data?
Yeah, that is where the 2026 regulatory reality shatters the Silicon Valley dream.
The speed bumps in the school zone.
Precisely. Enterprises operating in Europe are currently facing what we can call a triple compliance threat. If you deploy Agentic AI today, you are navigating 3 overlapping, highly punitive regulatory frameworks.
Okay, let's lay those out clearly. What exactly are we up against here?
Hurdle number 1 is the EU AI Act, which is now coming into full enforcement. Under this act, if you are running what they define as a high-risk AI system, which, by the way, covers a lot of enterprise use cases, you cannot just push to production and hope for the best.
You can't just move fast and break things.
No, absolutely not. You are legally required to conduct rigorous fundamental rights impact assessments, maintain extensive technical documentation, and prove that you have concrete mechanisms for human oversight.
Okay, and hurdle number 2 is our old familiar friend, GDPR.
Oh, yeah.
But it applies very differently when you introduce autonomous agents into the mix. If your AI is processing personal data, say, analyzing customer support tickets, it must prove a lawful basis for every single action it takes.
It can't just hoard data anymore.
Right. It has to practice data minimization, meaning it is mathematically restricted to only viewing the data it absolutely needs for that specific task.
Right.
And crucially, it must respect the citizen's right to explanation.
That's a big one.
Yeah, if the AI makes a decision that affects someone, you have to be able to explain exactly how it arrived at that conclusion.
And then we get to the third threat, which is the combination of NIS2 and the CRA.
Actually, I want to stop you there because we throw around acronyms like NIS2 and CRA all the time.
Yeah.
But for a developer or a product manager listening, what do those actually mean in practice?
Fair point. So NIS2 is the Network and Information Security Directive, and the CRA is the Cyber Resilience Act. In practice, this means if your AI systems are in any way controlling, interacting with, or analyzing critical infrastructure or regulated digital products, they are subjected to mandatory, intense security audits.
Wow.
Yeah, and it creates incredibly strict liability frameworks for the software developers themselves if a vulnerability is exploited.
Okay, let me put on my skeptical CTO hat for a second here.
Go for it.
If I am a business leader listening to this triple threat sounds like a total bureaucratic nightmare. It sounds like a giant anchor dragging down my speed to market. Why can't I just bypass the headache, plug my company's data into one of the established hyperscalers in the US or Asia, and let their infinite compute power handle the back-end processing?
I mean, it is a tempting shortcut, right? But it introduces an entirely new, potentially fatal set of risks. When you rely on non-EU servers to process EU citizens' data, you immediately trigger Schrems II concerns.
Let's unpack Schrems II as well, because I hear teams brush this off way too often.
You really cannot brush it off. Schrems II is a landmark ruling that invalidated the US-EU Privacy Shield. It essentially means that if you route European personal data through servers in California, the U.S. Cloud Act dictates that American intelligence or law enforcement could theoretically compel access to that data.
Oh.
Yeah. The European Court of Justice looked at that and ruled that you cannot guarantee the safety of EU data once it crosses the ocean. So the moment your AI agent sends a customer's profile overseas to process a prompt, you are legally exposed to devastating fines.
So the classic move fast and break things approach literally breaks international law here.
Exactly. The only viable path forward for future-focused enterprises, and this is the exact foundational approach AetherLink utilizes, is relying on what we call geopatriated solutions and trusted clouds.
Meaning local hosting?
Yes. This means physically hosting the AI infrastructure, the models, and the processing entirely within data centers based in the Netherlands or elsewhere strictly within EU jurisdiction. By locking the data down geographically, you guarantee unambiguous compliance. It eliminates the regulatory gray area that Capgemini found was paralyzing 72% of businesses.
Okay, so the physical servers are bolted down in Amsterdam, which keeps the data residency lawyers happy, but hosting is just, the metal and the wires. Let's talk about the software layer. How do we prevent the AI software itself from hallucinating a GDPR violation while it's proactively trying to optimize a workflow?
That brings us to the core of the AetherMIND consultancy approach. You cannot just buy an AI off the shelf, plug it into your CRM, and expect it to behave legally.
It's not plug and play.
Not at all. It requires a fundamental architectural strategy. Before you write a single line of code or spin up a single agent, AetherMIND insists on executing an AI readiness audit.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because this audit isn't a standard tech checklist. It evaluates 4 very distinct pillars. The first one is data health. They ask, are your internal data sets actually labeled? Are they classified correctly? Because if you point an autonomous agent at a messy corporate SharePoint drive where sensitive employee health data is mixed in with public marketing copy, well, this agent's going to ingest everything.
And it will fail in a spectacularly non-compliant way. The AI is only as safe as the data it consumes. The second pillar is process maturity. This is about identifying the right targets. You shouldn't deploy an agent to replace complex human empathy or high-level strategic negotiation. You need to map out workflows where the agent can take over high-volume, rules-based tasks.
Then there's compliance resilience. Basically, if an EU regulator walks into your office tomorrow morning and demands an AI Act audit or a GDPR data subject request, is your system architected to instantly generate the required reports?
You have to be ready.
Right. And finally, the fourth pillar is the trust arc.
Yes, the trust arc is often completely ignored by purely technical teams, but it will absolutely make or break your deployment. Which stakeholders do you need to convince that this system is safe?
Like internal and external.
Exactly. You have to build trust with your employees so they understand they're being augmented, not replaced. You have to build trust with your customers, proving their data won't be leaked. And, you have to build trust with the board of directors.
So, assuming an organization cleans its room, passes that readiness audit, and has the trust of its stakeholders, how do you actually build the system?
You build it using a design philosophy called bounded autonomy. Some developers hear the word bounded and roll their eyes, thinking it's an artificial limitation on the technology's potential.
Like we're neutering the AI.
Right, but it's not. It is an absolute non-negotiable legal requirement for high-risk systems under the new EU frameworks.
So what does bounded autonomy actually look like when you are engineering it?
It relies on several core mechanisms. First, you have the agent sandbox. You never let an autonomous agent loose on live production data on day one. It is deployed in a strictly confined, walled garden test environment first.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it practices its tasks using synthetic data where it physically cannot do any real damage or breach any real privacy.
Okay, I understand the sandbox. But the second mechanism is explainability logs. And I have to push back here.
Okay, push back.
Whenever someone pitches explainable AI, my alarm bells go off. We are talking about neural networks with billions of parameters. They are notoriously opaque black boxes.
True.
How on earth do you engineer a system that satisfies a GDPR regulator asking, why did your AI deny this customer's application? You can't just hand them a spreadsheet of node weights and expect them to understand it.
You're spot on, and you don't hand them the weights. It's where the engineering meets the law. The AetherMIND blueprint solves this by not auditing the neural network's internal math, but by forcing a strict chain of thought output.
Chain of thought?
Yeah. Before the agent is permitted to call the API that executes an action, the system architecture hard-codes it to write down its logic step by step into an immutable plaintext log.
So it's literally narrating its thought process.
Yes. It must log. I analyzed data point A, I evaluated it against company policy B, I verified I am within compliance boundary C, and therefore I am proposing action D. By forcing the AI to narrate its logic deterministically before taking action, you turn a black box into a transparent, fully auditable workflow.
That is a brilliant workaround. It's logging its workflow, not its brainwaves.
Exactly.
And the final piece of bounded autonomy is the human-in-the-loop gates. This means for any critical execution like, say, sending out a legally binding client communication or deleting a database, the AI is physically locked out of hitting execute.
It needs a he.
Right. It requires a human who hopefully hasn't had too much coffee to actually review the logs and click approve.
The AI does the heavy lifting of gathering context and drafting the solution, but the human holds the keys to the kingdom.
So we have the secure local infrastructure, and we have the legally compliant bounded architecture. Where do we actually point these digital colleagues to get that 30 to 40% productivity boost? What are the actual winning use cases for 2026?
The blueprint outlines 4 distinct operational areas where this technology moves the needle from day one. Let's start with contract review and compliance.
This one is revolutionary for legal departments. In a traditional setup, a lawyer might spend 3 days reading through a dense incoming vendor contract.
It's so tedious.
Yeah. With Agentic AI, the agent scans the incoming contract against the company's approved legal templates. It automatically flags the liabilities, cross-references recent regulatory changes, and suggests the red line modifications. Then, the human lawyer simply reviews the flag sections and approves the changes. The time required drops from days to hours.
But notice how it changes the nature of the legal work. The lawyer shifts from being a drafter to being a validator and a strategic advisor. The second major use case is customer support triage.
I hear that and immediately think of those terrible automated phone menus we all hate. How is this different?
It's entirely different because it's not about deflecting the customer. It's about empowering the human agent. The AI reads the incoming support tickets, instantly sorts them by urgency, gathers all the relevant context from the customer's purchase history and previous interactions, and routes a fully prepared dossier to the exact right human team.
So the human agents are then freed up to handle the nuance, the frustration, and the emotional intelligence side of the interaction, while the AI handles the administrative sorting in the background.
Precisely.
The result is a 50% or more increase in throughput without sacrificing the quality of the customer experience. What about the third use case?
The third is data governance enforcement. This is fascinating because you are using AI to manage the very laws that govern it. Agents are deployed to continuously monitor your internal databases.
Like a digital hall monitor.
Yep. They ensure that personal data is correctly labeled, securely stored, and crucially, they enforce legal deletion dates. GDPR compliance becomes a continuous, real-time background process rather than a frantic, manual, end-of-year audit.
That sounds like an absolute lifesaver for a data protection officer.
Absolutely.
And the fourth area is marketing. We all know modern marketing thrives on A/B testing. AI agents can test hundreds of campaign variations, adjust budget allocations, and segment audiences in real time based on live performance metrics.
Which is incredible for ROI.
Right. But because of the bounded autonomy we discussed, it does all of this strictly within GDPR bounds. It is architecturally prevented from utilizing any illegal, unconsented profiling logic.
And to manage all of these incredibly complex, highly regulated workflows across different departments, the AetherMIND blueprint highlights the absolute necessity of a brand new corporate role. If we connect this to the bigger picture, we're talking about the AI lead architect.
I feel like this is going to be the most sought-after job title of the decade. Who is this person? What do they actually do?
It is a true unicorn role. The AI lead architect is a hybrid professional. They must possess a deep understanding of software engineering, a firm grasp of international legal compliance, and very sharp business logic.
That's a rare combo.
It is. Their primary job is to design the intricate decision trees that ensure GDPR requirements are hard-coded directly into the agent's behavior.
So they aren't just writing Python scripts, they are literally translating law into code.
That is the perfect way to phrase it. They validate that the explainability logs we discussed are actually comprehensible for regulators. They manage the delicate handoff points between the autonomous agents and the human workers. And importantly, they are responsible for continuously testing the models to guarantee that the agents do not propagate unintentional bias in their decision-making. AetherMIND often helps organizations either hire for this role or provides the expertise as an external consultancy because, frankly, finding someone with all 3 skill sets naturally is incredibly difficult right now.
Let's bring this down to a practical timeline.
Yeah.
If you are a technology leader listening to this deep dive and you want the system up and running safely by 2026, what does the implementation roadmap actually look like?
It requires a highly disciplined, phased approach. You don't just flip a switch and turn the AI loose. According to the roadmap, Q1 of 2026 should be entirely dedicated to the readiness audit.
You have to figure out where your organization actually stands regarding data health and process maturity.
Exactly.
Clean your room before you invite the AI in. Make sure your data is labeled. Then, in Q2 and Q3, you pilot a single, low-risk use case. You don't overhaul the entire company's operations. You start with something contained, like the customer support triage or the contract evaluation.
Use those pilots to learn how the agents behave in your specific corporate environment. Then, by Q4, you focus intensely on establishing overarching governance.
Meaning what, exactly?
This means formalizing your AI transparency statements, rolling out comprehensive training for your human employees on how to work alongside these new digital colleagues, and doing simulated dry runs for regulator audits.
And then heading into 2027 and beyond, once the governance foundation is rock solid, you can finally scale to multiple agents across different departments. The golden rule is always lead with governance, not just the raw technology.
Because if you prioritize governance, the speed will naturally follow.
So what does this all mean? When you look at all these sources, the statistics, the blueprints, what is the core takeaway for you? Because for me, it goes back to a quote directly from the AetherMIND Enterprise Strategy document.
Oh, which one?
It says that agentic AI is not about replacing humans. I know I was skeptical about the job replacement aspect earlier, but when you look at the architecture, the real power is treating AI as collaborative partners.
I completely agree.
They augment human judgment with incredible speed and consistency. It's about building a fundamentally better, more capable team, rather than just trying to build a cheaper one.
Yeah, that's spot on. My biggest takeaway is about how we perceive compliance itself. Organizations that view European regulations purely as annoying obstacles and wait until they are forcefully mandated to comply are going to fall hopelessly behind.
They won't survive the transition.
Exactly. The organizations that win this decade will be the ones that start right now, elevating strategy, architecture, and governance to the exact same level of importance as the machine learning models themselves. By doing that, they transform compliance from a bureaucratic burden into a massive, legally defensible competitive advantage.
It becomes the ultimate corporate moat. Nobody can catch you because they're too busy dealing with lawsuits.
Precisely.
Before we wrap up, what is one final thought you want to leave the audience with today? Something outside the strict blueprint, but related to where this technology is heading.
Well, this raises a fascinating and somewhat intimidating question that I think every enterprise will eventually have to confront.
Okay, lay it on me.
We are talking about building autonomous AI agents explicitly designed to continuously monitor and enforce data governance laws across the entire company.
Right.
So what happens to the internal corporate culture on the day an autonomous AI agent inevitably flags and catches a C-suite executive breaking a major compliance rule? We are building these systems to be impartial. Are we truly psychologically ready for our AI colleagues to actively govern us?
Wow. That is going to be a very uncomfortable board meeting to sift through. A lot to think about as we head into 2026. For more AI insights, visit etherlink.ai.